Hello and welcome along to Mondo Chelloveck Movies. My name is John and this video is going to be what movies I've watched in the month of August 2022. Also, if you watch part 3 of the Video Nasties live stream that we did the other night, me and Nige, I'll leave a link down to his channel down below. It's got a great new video out. So I mentioned on that live stream that I've got a great card trick and I was going to put on the end of one of my videos. Well, I filmed it with the aid of the Debs and I'm going to put it on the end of this video. It's a card trick that you can try out at home. Don't ask me how it works, but it just does. So keep an eye out for that at the end of the video. So first up I watched Daleks Invasion Earth 2150 AD. What a mouthful. And this is brilliant. The other one's brilliant as well, Doctor Who and the Daleks. And this one is equally as good. I can't really divide them on which one I prefer. I think I might slightly prefer this one, although they're both quite different in the way they go on. This is more like an action adventure. The other one is more like a pure sci-fi movie. I just think they're brilliant. I get so much nostalgia from these movies. I'm going to leave a link down to my unboxing of this in the description down below, so check that out if you want to. It's got the stuff in here, it's just absolutely next level. I'm so glad I got these two on the sort of special edition 4K. The 4K on here looks absolutely sensational. The colours, with it being 60s colours, they just really come out the screen. I think it's a Technicolor masterpiece. So when you know something's like that, you know it's going to be really nice to look at. I do think that this movie star and the late great Bernard Cribbins as well is one that can stand the test of time. I try to think of these as more like a sort of sci-fi movie, like a sort of a hokey sci-fi movie, and I get a lot out of them. If you treat them as like a serious movie, you might sort of like flounder with them. Also, they seem to be directed more for kids than I think the TV series was, but that's not taking anything away from it. I mean, when I watched it, I was a kid, and I wanted to get that nostalgia trip that I did with this. I highly, highly recommend this movie. I think that it's one that might not be widely highly known about when you talk about 4Ks, but for 4Ks for 60s movies, this one's right up there with the quality of it. And the actual movie itself is very enjoyable. So that's Daleks Invasion Earth 2150 AD. Next up I watched one of my favourite movies of all time, Grease. Now with the very sad passing of Olivia Newton-John, I knew I had to watch this movie. Now sometimes when you hear about a star passing, you think, I'll have to watch one of their movies, and you don't really get around to it. But I knew instantly I would have to. Then the day after I found out about her sad passing, I went and watched this movie. And I tell you what, as much I love this movie, I watched it time and time and time again. I went to picture to see it, you all know about that. But it was a bit of a bittersweet watch, this one. It wasn't as well, it was enjoyable as it was, but it wasn't enjoyable with the fact is there's certain scenes in this movie that take on quite a poignant sort of flavour after what happened, and you see the movie in a slightly different light. But I really enjoyed it, and it looks spectacular on 4K again. The sound quality that sounds on it, it's a perfect movie for me. I get so much joy out of watching Grease in remembrance to back in the day when this came out. It was huge when it came out, and it was a bittersweet moment to have to take because obviously I was watching it in remembrance of Olivia Newton-John. But it will get better on the next watch, get easier on the next watch, I've got to say. I've got to say that this one was quite a tough watch. I did find myself choking up a few times because it's a part of history for me. It's a big part of history, and I think that part's gone. But when you think it's gone, it's not gone because you've got this to look back on, and also you've got your memories to think of. So that's a big shout out to Olivia Newton-John. That's Grease. Next up I watch, which could have the contender for the best title of this month, is Sometimes Aunt Martha Does Dreadful Things. Wow. Yeah. So I put this on because obviously when I got this one, I thought I'm going to have to watch this. Mainly the title. I thought the title is so good, I have got to see what's about this movie. And I just reckon it's in a bit of a bad taste, like the John Waters type movie. So instantly I was drawn to it. Now this movie is from 1971, and the basic premise of this movie is that this character, Aunt Martha, and this is not a spoiler, is somebody. There's two people in the rob a bank. In order to hide in public, and this fella has to become Aunt Martha to the fella that he's with, has to become his Aunt Martha. And it's a strange movie. To be honest, when I was watching it to start off with, I thought, I don't know where this one's going. I can't really get a flavour of it. It was a bit odd. But as it went on, stick with it, it really came good in the end. It's got some really killer performances from these people here. Now, the fella who plays Aunt Martha, I'm pretty sure this is the only movie he ever did. There's also another guy in here who plays the son, or the son of this Aunt Martha, and he was in a film called Jake Speed, which I'm trying to get on Arrow. In fact, I will be probably getting it by the time you've seen this. I will have probably have got it, and it's actually quite a good print on here, and it's really grindhouse. It's really like low budget, but it's a very enjoyable film. And the more it gets on, I think after the first half hour, this film really picks up. But the acting in here is pretty terrible. And there's some really good set pieces in here. And the fact that this person who becomes Aunt Martha, when people know him, because he lives in this area, because they're trying to get this money laundered and move on, nobody realizes who he is. And you know, it's you can blatantly see that he's a fella who's, you know, sort of parading as a sort of with this wig, this daft wig. So I rate this movie quite highly, actually. I had a really good time with it. And these alpha releases are brilliant. I love them. Can't get enough of them. And if you do watch it though, and you do think you're not into it, like I wasn't really into it at the start of it, do hang on, because the movie does come good at the end, like halfway through. So that sometimes Aunt Martha does dreadful things. Next up, we watched a movie that I just watched very recently. I thought, I wonder if Deborah will like this one. And it is Big Trouble in Little China. Now, as you know, I watched this maybe 2 months ago, and I had a great time with it. After not liking it when it first came out, and I thought, I'll never get into this movie. I've tried it a few times, and I haven't got into it. It just shows you that maybe that you've got to give these movies a few times. Maybe just hit them at the wrong point. I just don't know why this movie just didn't appeal to us at the time. But funny enough, when I put it on, and Deborah's saying, what's this? I says, oh, it's just like, say it's like a martial arts comedy adventure. When she put it on, she could tell that she wasn't really into it. So after a bit of a slow start, Deborah did get into this movie and she really enjoyed it. I find this movie to be more enjoyable every time I watch it. Like I say, back in the day, I had no time for this movie whatsoever, because I thought of Carpenter just making horror stuff, and when he made a comedy, I was like, no, I'm not having that. Which was the stupid thing to do. And probably an immature thing to do as well, because I think when you're in the back in the day, when you're young, you kind of think you know everything about everything. So if a movie like this you've never got away with, I urge you maybe to go back to it another time and try it out. But she had a really good fun time with this, and I was quite interested to see how she started off. Think, well, I'm not into this, but she got into it, because that's how I was. I don't think I'd give this movie a fair shake when I watched it originally, but I'm so glad that she watched it with us, and we really had a great time with it. The picture quality in here is absolutely stunning. This has got to come out in 4K very soon. Hopefully somebody, one of the big companies will release it on a nice special edition, and I'll just think it'll look sensational on 4K. So that's Big Trouble in Little China. So next up, I saw this movie on the shelves and I thought, I'll give it a go, why not? And it is Mama. Now, I want to thank Michael Hewitt, my good friend Michael Hewitt, for supplying me with the slipcover, the lenticular slipcover. Now, if you look at that, you can see, you know, this picture of this woman holding the character of Mama. And you don't really get much, you only see the arm. Now, when you see the lenticular slipcover, which I thought, oh, this is nice, because, as you'll see when I'll show you, you see a lot more. Look at that. You see a lot more of this stuff, and you see more of what this person's all about, this character. And I think that the slipcover really adds to this movie. So it made me think, right, I put the slipcover in here, and I really realised how good the slipcover was. So I put this on, and I thought, right, I'll go into this just saying, you know, I wouldn't say movies these days can shock you, but I knew it'd probably have like jump scares in, which whatever all these new movies have in, but I thought, well, let's see what we can get. So this movie here stars Jessica Chastain. Now she plays, I couldn't really get away with the character, if I'm honest, until maybe halfway through the movie. She plays somebody who's in a band, like a punk band, and she doesn't really come across quite, when I look at it, I don't think she was the right person to play at that part. She comes across like somebody who's got no time for kids, not in the bad way, just she's not bothered. She wants to play with a band, she wants to have fun, she's just young, and she doesn't want to be tied down with this new family that they get. Now, but that, and I thought, well, this is going to put me off the movie, but when I watched it, that character does come good. So if the character kind of annoys you at first, which it kind of did, it'll come good in the end. And these characters here, these girls, what the brief story is, that this family, there's two kids, and they get kidnapped by their father, and they end up, like through strange events, they end up in this hut in the middle of nowhere, and there is this character in it, this Mama. Now, when they get found 5 years later, they are like feral kids. There's this one, and then there's the older one. There was two daughters. Now, the great actors, these kids, and it's about this family trying to get these kids to, well, sort of behave normally, but they can't. But there's a big problem with this character here. Now this movie is full of jump scares, as I knew it would be. I mean, most movies do that these days. You've got to expect it. And sometimes they're just absolutely, well, they're pathetic. But there's a couple in these that I think, oh, well, hang on. You know, people walking past and you go, oof, like that, because it's just this booming noise on your sound system. But there's a one in here, which, if you've seen it, you know what I mean. It's like a double jump scare. You get a jump scare and you get a jump scare immediately straight after. And I thought that was good, actually. It was a really good one as well, quite spooky. So, but at the end of this movie's more like a fantasy ghost story, and I thought, I like that. I like that the way that went. It's not, it wasn't like a sort of a possession or anything like that. It wasn't. There was a sort of a fantasy element to it. I think with Guillermo del Toro being involved, you get that fantasy feel into his movies. So for me, I think it's quite highly recommended. And I think that slipcover, you can get that slipcover. It's so good. I mean, look at that. That's absolutely brilliant. I want to thank Michael Hewitt once again for supplying me this. It's great when I see these cheap in CEX. I can just pick them up, put this on, and just say, it is what it is. If it's good, it's good. And this one was really good, actually. It's one of the movies that stays with you. Like I say, I did not like the character of Jessica Chastain at the start. I didn't find it very believable, although I think she can play a bass. But it comes good, and it's got a really good story, actually. So highly recommended. That's Mama. So on the back of watching Mama, I thought, is there any other movies there that are a bit like a ghost possession type movie? So I saw this one, I thought, I'm going to check this one out. So I checked out The Awakening. Now, this stars Rebecca Hall, who's absolutely, I think she's a great actress. She was in Christine, and she was also in it's one of the Godzilla films. I think the last Godzilla versus Kong. And this movie it's a BBC movie, I will say, and it does look like a BBC movie. It looks like something you would see on the TV. It looks a bit like it's got a bit of a Downton Abbey feel to it. Just the fact of where it's shot. Now, that's not taking anything away from it. This has got quite a good story to it as well, and it's a story that I didn't see coming. It did seem a bit generic in places, and I thought, where's this going? And you've got like jump scares all over the place again. So the story concerns this character here. She goes to this school where there's a haunting in the school, where this boy appears in apparitions in photographs, and she wants to get to the bottom of it. Now what she is, she's a skeptic. She didn't believe anything to do with this. Now she goes there and she's got all the technology at that point, because I think it's from about 1921 it was set in. And she's trying to sort of say that this is not real. So I leave it up. I'm not going to say anything more than that, because there's obviously much more than that. And there's a lot of twists and turns in this movie. A few that I didn't see coming, like I say. But after all, it did have a bit of a BBC feel about it, a bit like something you could see on the TV. So for me, I had to mark that down a little bit on that. It's a decent watch if you can get it cheap, and you'll probably have a good time. I did. I mean, I watched it all at the end, and I think I will watch it again somewhere down the line. So that's The Awakening. So next up is my top 3 recommendations for the month of August. At number 3 is Donnie Darko. Now, this is the 4K, which hasn't got a slip. This is the Blu-ray slip, and I put it in here, and you would never know when it's on the shelf that it's not 4K. I put it in the 4K section. And when I put it on late at night. Now, this movie isn't a scary movie, even though it does look like that. And there's something that happens early on in the movie, and to be honest, it was a huge jump scare for me. I wasn't expecting this at all. So for the rest of the movie, I was on edge. It was really weird to think that I was kind of nervous about watching this movie. I knew I wasn't frightened. I just felt a bit kind of not right on it. I don't know how to explain that. After that jump scare, it was a really odd thing to happen in this movie. I haven't watched the director's cut yet. I watched the shortest version, the one that doesn't really make sense. It didn't really make sense to me, but I kind of half got what I think it's about. I think I will check out the director's cut, but I know the director's cut does tell you a little bit more about the story. I don't know if I want to know too much more about the story. Sometimes when I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking, is it not just enough to know what I know, which is, have this sort of air of what just happened there. I urge anybody, I don't know if anybody's the same as me, but if you put this movie off for want of a reason and thinking, well, I don't think I like this, give this movie a go. It's very kind of like a David Lynch movie, but I had a great time with it, and I urge anybody who hasn't seen it, like I hadn't seen it, to go and watch it. So that's at number 3, that's Donnie Darko. So at number 2 is Everything Everywhere All at Once. Now, a big shout out to Paul, aka the 4K Chef. I'll leave a link to his channel down below. He actually gave me this movie, and as everybody knows, you can't get this in the UK on 4K. You can't get it anyway. It's bizarre how that is a thing. I don't know why that is. Probably to do with the fact they're going to re-release it with a longer cut. This movie's quite long. I think it's about 2 and a bit hours anyway. So I was really interested, and Deborah was really interested to watch this. So when we watched it, we had a great time with it. But we watched it late at night, so I had to split it in two. Now, if I'm honest, I was glad that I split it in two because there's that much stuff happens in here, you kind of get a bit lost. And you kind of need a little bit of time to sort of think, well, what's just happening here? But I could watch it now. I could watch it fully in the full form and not switch it off, not take a break. And I thought this was a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece of editing. I don't know how they edited this movie. It must have been an absolute nightmare to do because the amount of things that happen in one scene, you know, it's to do with the multiverse, about people coming through back in time. Sometimes you don't know if it's a good version of that person or a bad version. Also, this movie is very quirky, which is something I love. It's got Michelle Yeoh in there as well, who is brilliant in everything she's in. It's also got the guy who's now a man from the Goonies, Data from the Goonies, I think it's called Data. And yeah, so I can highly recommend this. I really hope that, well, for people who haven't got it, I really hope you get a chance to get this. It's got to come out in 4K in the UK. So thanks once again to Paul for giving this to me. Me and the devs had a brilliant time with this movie. I urge anybody who's a fan of this type of movie, just quirky, multi-universe, kung fu to a certain extent. And one of the big revelations in here is the character of Jamie Lee Curtis. Absolutely incredible. So highly recommended again. At number 2, that's Everything Everywhere All at Once. So number 1 is 1989's Hitcher in the Dark. Now I put this on and I thought, well, I'll give this a shot. Obviously I watch all of these movies because I collect them all. And I thought, yeah, it'll probably be adequate and it'll probably be, you know, watchable and I'll probably enjoy it. But I tell you what, I had such a good time with this movie. I couldn't believe this. I had us on the edge of my seat watching this movie. So you get a booklet in here and you do get a poster. I love these Italian collection releases, these nice hard box ones. So the story is that this guy here, he actually has this Winnebago. Now it's not a spoiler that he is actually up to no good. You can see from here, you know straight away that he's sort of like the antagonist. And you think that he's got like a fixation with his mother, and he thinks that this girl looks like his mother. So what he does is when he picks these hitchhikers up, he puts them into his caravan or his Winnebago, and he sort of, that's the thing about, she gets in here and how does she get out, or does she get out? So yeah, so this is very tense. It's like a tense thriller. It's got some big sort of gore in it as well. It's got some brutal scenes in it at times. And I do think that this movie is a bit of a gem that you think, why does nobody know about these movies? Because when this movie came up and I saw it, I thought, God, not gonna. You think sometimes you think when you get these ones. I mean, Super Spy number 72, so you think they're going to run out of titles, but obviously they've got some great titles lined up. Now, what I like about this is giving me a title that would have normally I wouldn't have looked at twice, but I feel like I'm duty bound to buy these ones on this collection. So with good results, because when I got this and I watched it, I thought, you know what it is, I'm so glad to have picked this movie up and been shown about this movie, because I wouldn't have had I wouldn't even known about it. To this day, it could have come and passed and I would never had the chance to view this movie. This is one of the best movies I've seen recently. I just bought into it and I thought that the performances in here were great. I mean, yes, it is an Italian collection, but it's filmed in the US. It's not Italian dubbed or anything. These are Italian Italian actors. I think Umberto Lenzi came over to the US and made a few movies in the late 80s. And like I say, the picture quality is a 4K remastered Blu-ray and it looks sensational. It's one of the best Blu-rays I've seen in a long time. And it'll take a lot of beating this as well. And the great thing about 88 is they're putting these things out. They're giving you the chance to watch these different movies that you would normally just pass by on the shelf, or like I say, you would never ever know about it. Even the ones when you think you knew quite a lot about these 70s or 80s movies, you realize there's a big canon of them out there that you haven't got any knowledge about. So this is well, obviously it's number 1, but it's highly recommended. I think if you're a fan of sort of like horror to a certain extent, or you're a fan of people in sort of like peril, you will really get a good. The acting in here is brilliant. I don't know how much these actors have made since then, but I think she's went on to have a bit of a career. I don't think this guy has, but he was great. This guy as well, he is absolutely brilliant. There's not many people in the movie because of the fact that it takes mainly place in this Winnebago, but I think you'll have a great time in this movie, like I did, hopefully. And I can't recommend this movie highly enough. So at number 1, that's Hitcher in the Dark. So stick around for that magic trick coming up now. And I'd be interested to know in the comments, did you try it? Did it work? Did you show it off to somebody? Don't tell them the secret. Well, actually, I don't even know what the secret is. It's just, how does it work? I don't know, but it just does. So thanks for watching. You take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.
Well, I'm trying. Do you know what I mean? I'm trying.
You're very trying. So this is the magic trick I promised you the other night on the live stream. I don't know how it works, but it does. I'm joined here by the gorgeous Debbie Perry, my assistant. And so really what you want to do is you want to take...
So not Debbie McGee then?
Not Debbie McGee. No, not Debbie McGee. You're not 900 years old. You want to take them...
God.
I know. You want to take them cards, right? That's normal cards. Try this at home. I haven't got a clue how it works, but it does. But if you want to, you can tell the story that
I... see me socks.
I bet you Debbie McGee doesn't have the socks like them. Dear me. Anyway, I'm sure they're mine. Right, so anyway, this is the story of this. It's about, is it the kings? The kings of the castles. Is it? Do you say the kings? Well, we'll say the kings of the castles. The various castles. King of Hearts, King of Spades, King of Diamonds, King of Clubsies. So, they've all got to have... They've all got to have in their castles their wives with them. So all the wives go and stay with them. And there you go. So of course, when you go on your holidays in the castle, you've got to take your kids with you, haven't you? And so you take your kids with you. Take the bairns, you go there. And then when you go on the holiday, you've got to take your servants with you. So there's your servants with you. And there you are, right? So, at night, they all went to sleep in the castles. It's all about the castles, right? So just follow this. Like I say, I don't know how this works, but it does. Right, this is the strange part in it, right? You actually cut the cards anywhere, really, doesn't matter, it really doesn't matter. And then you put them out like that again. Look at that, card shark. Right, but in the night, Deborah, something very strange happens. Honestly, watch it not work. I can't even get this up. Look at that. Maybe I'll cut this bit. Oh man. This is short.
Oh no.
There you go. I don't know how that works.
Wow.
But it does. Like I say, you just put them out like that. Cut the cards, which is really the weird bit, is cutting the cards anywhere you want. Don't cut them with one card though. Cut them more than one card. Then, once you've finished that, lay them out. And if you're telling it to your kids, they'll think you're dead clever. And they'll also put a little bit of story, and everyone loves a story, don't they? So, there you go. Thanks very much. Thanks very much to the gorgeous Debbie Perry for standing with the socks. And there you go. Right, and that's actually pants she's going on today.
I'm not.
Right, okay, so see you later.
Now that's Mondo magic.